What is up? Welcome to Mock It Like It's Hot. We have been inundated with NFL rookies and NFL rookie drafts for the last month, and I got to be honest with you, pretty sick of it at this point. But before we move on, it also occurred to me, we have not done a Superflex mock draft in a while, so let's go out with one of those. It's probably the most common dynasty way of playing right now, so we should probably give people a little bit of content now that we have landing spots. We did one quarterback last week. We're going to do Superflex this week. We have my friend, Club Fantasy's friend, Hutchinson Brown here with us today. The draft room is full. Let's get into it. What is up? Welcome to Mock It Like It's Hot, Club Fantasy's weekly mock draft show. I am your host, Ryan Weisse. No Austin Amendola this week as he is still European vacationing, but Josh Hudson has nothing better to do, so he is here with us on the show. How are you doing tonight, my friend?
Sounds very depressing considering it's a Friday night and I'm single, but you know what? I love you guys more, so there we go.
Yeah, I guess I didn't realize I was taking personal shots there. I was just kind of talking about the fact that you don't have a job, but yeah, you are hanging out with...
You just added that one in.
Yeah, you are hanging out with the oldest and youngest person you know doing mock drafts on a Friday night. So that just makes you weird all over, Josh. I was thinking about this earlier today, Hutch. I would venture a guess that other than Josh, myself, and Joe Zolo, you have appeared on the Club Fantasy airwaves more than anybody else. I think that's probably a pretty fair assumption.
I think that's fair. Yeah, I think that's fair. I love you guys keep inviting me back for some reason. I'm happy to be on.
That's how I feel when people invite me back too. I'm like, really? I didn't screw it up last time. Hutchinson Brown, welcome to the show. Obviously, anybody who's watched us before knows who you are, but I always like to give you guys a chance to pitch yourself, talk about where they can find you, anything you're working on right now. Hutch, go for it.
Sure, yeah. Y'all can follow me on Twitter. It's on the little StreamYard username at HutchinsonB_FF, also over there on Blue Sky as well. And then check out my podcast, Hutch Coming in Clutch, and check out the work I do over on the Football Guys site. Gonna be doing a lot of things over the summer and during the season. So very, very excited.
Yeah, Hutch. I help Hutch get into a podcast, and all of a sudden I blink, and he's a coworker of mine over at Football.
Yeah, man.
Things you love to see right there. Before we get started, and I'll explain the draft here in just a second, I'd like to take a moment to remind you guys, we do have that partnership going on with Dynasty Nerds as well right now. If you guys are looking to become better Dynasty Fantasy football managers, Dynasty Nerds has the product for you, and if you use promo code Club Fantasy, you will save 15% on any of the membership they have over there. They have a ton of things with these rookies, all the film you could need. They do their own mock drafts. They help you with ADP, a ton of great articles. Dynasty Nerds has a great product. If you guys are looking to get better as a Dynasty manager, I recommend you check it out and use promo code Club Fantasy. Save yourself a little bit of money and get us a little bit of money if you're trying to help the show out at all. As always, I like to get the draft up here, do a little housekeeping, if you will. So as I mentioned at the start of the show, this is going to be our last Superflex mock draft of the year. For rookies, rather, Superflex rookie mock draft of the year. We have 10 drafters because I always point out in a mock draft, it doesn't matter how many drafters you have, it's how many players. These are going to be the top 50 players you're going to see going off the board. You're also going to notice draft order doesn't matter. And we're going to talk about that in just a moment because we got a little wild with the draft order here. But I do like to mention, if you've ever tuned into the show before, you know, we are not going to grade every team, especially not in a rookie mock draft. There's really nothing to grade. I don't know what your team positional needs are because you don't have a team. You don't have positional needs. This is just about drafting the rookies that we like. So throughout this show, we're going to talk about the rookies we find interesting, the picks we find interesting, and some topics that I've created. I also like to mention the drafters that are here with us because, again, they may not get mentioned during the show, but we do appreciate these folks coming on and drafting with us because if they didn't, this would be very, very boring. So we got Shia LaBeouf picking out of the 1 spot, Evan picking from the 2 spot, Darte at the 3, Hutch took the 4, Alt Joe at the 5, Eagles fan with a Browns helmet. That's a weird one. At the 6. Oh, is it? Saywat again at the 7, Sumo Kid at the 8, 17 Buffalo at the 9, and Josh took the 10 spot here, which I think influenced the questions he asked me about the draft order. So guys, I'm going to go ahead and get the draft started, and then we will talk a little bit more. So we'll get that started for everybody. I'll remember to turn the noise off so everybody doesn't have to hear that. My bad, y'all. But let's get started, guys, by talking about the draft order, and not just the draft order of this draft, which I'll throw out for everybody is super weird. I forgot to make this linear, so it was already in a snake. And then Josh said, do you want to make it 3rd round reversal? And I was like, sure. I thought it was linear, so it didn't make any sense to me, but I was like, whatever, man, if you want third round reversal. But then it occurred to me that gives us an opportunity to talk about one of Josh's weird ass leagues where we do some really weird stuff for the draft order. But we're going to make this more vague because nobody wants to just talk about a league that they're not a part of. So Hutch, what I wanted to talk to you about, I know you're in a ton of dynasty leagues. I know you're in 3 or 4 with me, I think, at this point. How big of an issue for you personally is tanking in dynasty? The people who just go out there and lose to try to get the first pick. Do you think that draft orders should be established by worst record? There are other ways of doing it that we'll talk about. Or do you just not care? Do you think if people are paying their fees and they're willing to play, let them play? How do you deal with tanking in a dynasty?
Personally, I definitely see the frustration with people who tank because, if you're trying to be competitive and get a playoff spot and your opponent, like someone you're trying to battle with a playoff seed for, gets the guy who's tanking as their matchup as one of the last weeks of the year, it's like they get a free win. Like that kind of just sucks. Like that honestly just sucks to see. But I'm also on the side where it's like everyone's paying their fees. Everyone can manage a dynasty team as they like, as long as they're not like cheating. I think it's totally fine if you really want to tank. So honestly, I say if they're paying the fees, they're playing by the rules, they're being an active dynasty manager. If you want to tank.
Yeah. And Josh, that's kind of the attitude I've always had about it. You paid your fees, you're doing this. If you want to just keep donating to the prize pool, you keep donating to the prize pool.
Yeah, exactly.
But Hutch brings up the point that I think pisses the most people off. And that is, I played you in week 4 when you cared. He played you in week 12 when you didn't care. And now he's in the playoffs and I'm not. And one of the alternatives that I'm going to throw the Equinox up here is max points 4. And that is a feature I feel like, Josh, that became more prevalent with Sleeper because they actually track that stat. And that's not something you see on a lot of other sites, where the team that had the fewest max amount of points, they get the first draft pick. But I was telling you guys before the show, I was just recently in a league, Josh, where the commissioner is like, I will never do that. I think that is the stupidest rule ever. And so like, I think it comes down to you can't please everybody all the time. So Josh, just feel free to go and expand on the tanking in a dynasty thing. And then I want to talk about our unique league. So
yeah. So I will say that I do think that max points 4 is probably the fairest way to do it. Because you do get some people in some leagues, like if they don't do max points 4, where they're going to hoard some of their better players. Like, let's say hypothetically that, somebody's sitting with, Malik Neighbors or Brian Thomas Jr., right?
Yeah.
But the rest of their team absolutely sucks. And Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. have the capabilities of winning you a given week, that it increases your record. Maybe you fall into some, what they might consider bad luck and end up in a playoff spot. And then they're sitting at the, 5th or 6th pick in their rookie draft versus, a top 2 or 3 or whatever. So they would just ultimately want to bench those players versus, letting them sit on their starting roster. Right. And helping them win.
Yeah.
Max points 4 forces you to say, all right, if I'm going to lose and bench these people, it's still going to increase the likelihood of my draft spot because I'm still scoring points. That becomes fairer to the rest of the league in that instance.
I remember, so the 2 club fantasy dynasties that I run, we use max points 4. And I remember Austin had the revelation that even your taxi squad counts as your max points 4. And he's like, it really is a deterrent from like tanking. So I do feel like I don't even remember the manager who it was who was so mad about max points 4 for his league. But I wish now I want to bring them on next year and question them about like, why do you hate this? Who hurt you? Let's talk about it.
Who hurt you?
Who hurt you?
But Josh, I guess just going back to the base of it, because it's where I want to go before we talk about our weirdo league, is do you have a problem with tanking in a dynasty? Like, to me, I don't even think about it, to be perfectly honest. I look at I very rarely tank. I look at, am I in contention for the playoff spot? I do not pay attention to the teams below me. I don't care. All I care about is, am I going to make that top 6?
Yeah, I mean, I don't love it, but I also understand the strategy behind it. Like there's, when it comes to dynasty, you're always going to have instances where some teams are just better set for the future, right? And at a certain point, you do have to kind of pivot off of some of these older players and kind of figure out what is the state of this roster going forward and not just for this year. So I understand the logic behind tanking or productive struggle, whatever terminology you want to use for it. But, you know, I do think that depending on the league itself, especially with some leagues, like we'll get into, you know, the league that we're alluding to here in a little bit, like that's $100 buy-in league. Yeah. Like, to me, there's a lot more on the line if a team decides I'm just going to throw all this away. Like, you're gifting somebody $800-900 at that point, right?
Yeah, Joe Zolo.
So, you know, it's just kind of like, to me, like I like more of a competitive balance, but I also think that there's different strategies behind productive struggling, right? Yeah. Like, it doesn't always just have to be I'm going to give away this player straight up for draft picks and not try to get anything back in return.
Yep. We're going to take a break, as we always do. Hutch, cover your ears as I say that we are whores. And if you throw money at us, your question goes up on the screen right away. Darth Twerk, thank you for the $5. Twerk is in a bit of a situation right now, Hutch. He has a crap team. It's a 1-quarterback league, PPR. Mm-hmm. The only good players on his roster, I assume this is Dynasty, are Jahmyr Gibbs, James Cook, and Jerry Jeudy. And if you're counting Jerry Jeudy as your third best player, oh boy. Yeah. They do have the 102. Okay. Would you trade James Cook, a second and a next year second round pick, for Jordan Addison and a next year first round pick? Hutch, I'm going to keep our faces covered up because I want to keep this question on the screen while we're answering. So
this is an absolute smash for me, honestly. If you get James Cook, I mean, James Cook is coming off an absolute peak season where over 50% of his value was touchdowns, I believe. It was right around that range. That's not going to repeat. And if you took away a lot of his touchdowns and gave him a more reasonable touchdown rate, this guy's barely an RB2. Like, it's a great Buffalo offense. You know, he's a talented player, but the touchdowns carried him last season significantly, and you're selling him at a peak value here. 2026 second and Cook for, you know, what we look at as probably a very talented 2026 class. There's a lot of intriguing players next year. And then you get a young wide receiver and a great offense with a great coach, number 2 next to Justin Jefferson. And obviously, you know, Ashton has that shadow, but he was great for fantasy last year. He's absolutely phenomenal. And if JJ McCarthy is what we think he could be, Ashton's going to be a monster in fantasy football. And I think you could argue he might even be more valuable than James Cook himself. So this is a smash of a trade to me.
Josh, having been in so many dynasty leagues with you, I know that you are actively selling James Cook everywhere that you have him. Is this enough for you? Is this the right trade, Josh?
Yeah. I mean, you swap out Jordan Addison for Rashee Rice, and I made this literally exact trade.
What?
So
you were able to get Rashee
in our
Rice?
Ballers and Friends league.
Oh my god!
Which again, like I
didn't see that. I was just gonna say, I love that Hutch and I are in that league.
We're in that league.
Didn't know about the trade.
No, I did not see that. That's incredible, Josh. Great work.
Yeah. So actually, I think it was 2025 picks and not 2026.
Okay.
Regardless, like it's the
great trade.
Similar, you know, straight up. So, I mean, for me, it was all about buying Rashee Rice at a discount because I think people are kind of shying off of him based on the knee injury and the possible suspension. I want to sell James Cook at peak value because he's not going to repeat 16 touchdowns. Here's the biggest thing when it comes to running backs in these spike touchdown seasons, especially when you're talking about running backs that share backfields with quarterbacks who score a ton of rushing touchdowns. What goes up must come down. Remember when Miles Sanders went from 0 touchdowns to 12 touchdowns, parlayed that into a free agent deal with the Panthers, and then did nothing after the fact?
Nada.
James Cook is going after a new contract. If Buffalo doesn't want to give him that kind of contract that he wants, who do you think is going to get the goal line carries, guys? Let's be real here. It's not going to be James Cook because that's only going to inflate his value.
Yeah. So they're going to learn from Miles Sanders and take touchdowns away. I'm going to take this a step further for Darth Twerk because I think this is a really interesting question. We will talk about the draft momentarily. The draft will finish probably before we even start talking about it. It's eye candy, and then we will talk about it. But the next question I want to ask in that same situation, Hutch, with him having what he considers 3 good players, and after this trade, he'll still have 3 good players. Sounds like he is pretty far away. Would you also be shopping Jahmyr Gibbs, who might be one of the best fantasy assets? And credit to one Hutchinson Brown, by the way, who the day after the draft where Jahmyr Gibbs was selected, Hutch said Jahmyr Gibbs will be the RB1 next year and for the foreseeable future. And he was spot on. So
I was saying RB1 overall in Dynasty soon before the draft.
Yep,
I was saying that before the draft. I
remember your tweet. Maybe it was before the draft. I just remember when you tweeted it, it was bold, but man, were you right.
Yeah, people, and I said right before the season, if you're not ranking Jahmyr Gibbs as a top 12 running back, you're doing it wrong. Initially, his rookie season looked really bad because he started off slow, but then he really got it going.
But
anyways,
outside of inflating Hutch's ego,
yes,
on this very bad team, should he also be shopping Jahmyr Gibbs, Hutch?
I mean, here's the thing. Jahmyr Gibbs is a young, explosive, talented player. You're going to get a ton of fantasy value out of him. And specifically with him, what I like is that he's not taking an absolute monstrous workload. He's probably going to have a longer career than most running backs in my eyes because he's not getting those dirty in between the tackle carries very often. That's more David Montgomery's job than it is Gibbs. And I think that's going to promote a longer career for him. So I think we might see him into age 28, 29, 30, assuming he doesn't have any major injuries, still putting up monstrous fantasy value. I think we could see a longer career for Gibbs. And as a result, I think he's a very, very valuable dynasty asset. It would take a lot for me to sell him. I mean, hey, if anyone's willing to offer the right price, you go, right? But it would take a lot for me. It would at least be multiple firsts, if not probably more than that.
Josh, do you agree?
You're earning an absolute package to want to sell Gibbs to me.
Yeah. Josh, do you agree?
Yeah, I mean,
no reason. Yeah.
I'm going to take the first 4 words of his comment. Got a crap team. You don't keep valuable running backs if you have a crap team, plain and simple.
It's fair.
Like, if you've got a crap team, the only way that you keep Gibbs, in my opinion, is if you can turn this around in 1 year, plain and simple. Because otherwise, Gibbs is not going to be more valuable in the future than he is right now. It's the same thing with Ashton Jeanty, right? Like, people that are sitting with the 101, Jeanty right now is probably at peak value. So if you're sitting with the 101 and somebody wants to come up and get Jeanty, you better make sure that they have like a full-on package. Like I have it's an orphan that I took over. I went through the productive struggle route and I'm sitting with 4 first-round picks. I've got the 101, the 102, the 107, and the 110 in a 12-team Superflex.
Beautiful.
So I'm gearing up for, hey, I'm either going to dominate this draft, but I need quarterbacks. I need everything from top to bottom. I put the 101 on the block. But of course, the only teams that are ultimately going to try to make trades for the 101 are the best teams in the league that don't really have the assets to make me want to trade that pick, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, I got offered the 109 and 2026 first, which in theory is probably ultimately going to be a late first. Like, that's not enough for me to move off of Jeanty. Like, I would much rather hold him for this year. If I can win some games, cool. Then I can reevaluate my team, or I can sit here and I can look at, hey, let's figure out what's going to happen the next go around.
Josh, you're getting called out in the chat. We're going to talk about your draft in a second, but they said,
and that's fine. We'll talk about it.
You're an RB hog. All right. We spent more time on any of this than I expected to. We're going to get to the draft in 1 second, but Josh, I do want to ask about, it's funny. I've been in this league for 5 years now. Never asked about the origins of this, but Josh and I are in the OG Club Fantasy Dynasty. I don't think anybody, Austin might be the only like newbie that we've brought into this league. And that was like last year, but regardless, no one in this league, from what I can tell, has anything to do with stock car racing or auto racing in general. However, Josh, our draft order is decided by NASCAR races. So 1, where did that come about? And 2, for a standard dynasty league, Josh, are you in favor of just having fun with it and having nothing to do? It has a little bit to do with how we finished last year, but for the most part, kind of throwing all your cards up into the air.
Yeah. So, I mean, the way that this whole thing kind of originated. So, the fantasy league that kind of like spawned the creation of Club Fantasy, we used to do a series of events to determine our draft order. I think it was a three-player keeper league that we would do. But the way we would do it is we would take different sporting events and sort of like mold the finishes to create our draft order. So the first thing we would do is we would all fill out a bracket for March Madness, and then we would incorporate, usually it was the Kentucky Derby. And each of us would get horses, and, we could pay extra for an additional horse, kind of increase our odds on finishing, et cetera, et cetera. And then that was how we determined our draft order. So our draft order was usually set by May. Well, with and I wanted to kind of keep something similar with the Dynasty League because, again, like I know that with Dynasty, because it carries over year round, ideally, the worst teams get the first picks, et cetera, et cetera. But I wanted to create like a lottery system in a way, kind of similar to like the NBA, where just because you're tanking or productive struggling doesn't necessarily mean you get the best pick, right? But at the end of the day, usually there's at least, I'd say, anywhere from 3 to 5 like top prospects in any given draft, right? So at least if you're a non-playoff team, we are a 10-team league. If you're a non-playoff team, even if you don't get the 101, you're going to get one of those top prospects in this draft. So then it becomes a lottery pick for your top 4. Like they cannot fall out of the top 4. Same thing with the playoff teams. You can get as high as 5, but as low as 10, right? But then after the first round, because really there's a dearth of talent in rookie drafts. Like outside of the first round, like you'll have some good value here and there, but it's a crapshoot for the second, third, fourth, fifth rounds, right? So I said from the second round all the way down to the 5th round, we're going to combine all those finishes, even with the playoff teams, and then it just becomes whoever finishes with the best finishing driver, whatever. I chose the Daytona 500 with NASCAR because it happened sooner than March Madness and the Derby and all those other things. So at least then, like, people can kind of take January. They can sort of refresh after a long season. They can kind of reevaluate their teams, what they make that plan for the offseason, right? Because it's very common with dynasty teams where people sort of have like a month or two where they sort of check out because it's just like, it's been a long season. It's exhausting. And then they dive back into it, whether it's, rookie fever, the, NFL draft, training camps, all the combines, whatever. So at least with the Daytona 500, you get to know your draft order fairly early in the offseason. Like, yeah, it's not immediate in December, like, some teams or some leagues might be if you're doing like the max points for and that kind of thing. But, there's still enough time where you can kind of decide how you want to approach your offseason. So that's how I settled on the Daytona 500 to settle all that.
There you go. So if you guys are looking to do something weird, get a hold of Josh. I don't mind it. It's been fun for the time I've been in the league. Let's get into the mock draft, guys. The first thing I want to do is start by talking about the early picks. So I'm going to recap. I'm going to just quickly run through the first 2 rounds for anybody who might just be listening versus watching us on YouTube right now. So I'm just going to run through the first 2. Keep in mind, I have this set up as a snake, so it's going to be reversed on the back end, and I'll explain all that in just a second. Ashton, Jeanty, Omarion Hampton, Travis Hunter, first 3 players off the board. Hutch goes Travian Henderson, Cam Ward, Quinshawn Judkins, Tet McMillan, Emeka Egbuka, Caleb Johnson, Jackson Dart round out the first round. This is a 10-team draft. Josh then has the first pick of the second round. He goes RJ Harvey. We got Luther Burden, Colston Loveland, Tyler Warren, Marcus Golden. Is it Marcus Golden? Matthew Golden. Jaden Higgins. You would think I've talked about these guys so much. Trey Harris, Jack Besh, Cam Scatabo, and Mason Taylor round out the first 2 rounds.
You sure it's Marcus Taylor?
No, it's Mason, right?
Okay. Yeah,
Don't, Hutch, I'm too old for this shit. Don't be giving me a hard time right now. What's wrong with you, man? Anyway, Hutch, you jerk.
Yes.
I want to start this right at the top. And I was a little surprised to see how far Cam Ward falls in this 2 QB drafted. Hutch, obviously you were a part of that. So this is going to make this question a little ridiculous for you, Hutch, but I want to talk to the general Superflex community. Is there a situation where a QB needy team should consider Cam Ward over Ashton Jeanty at the 101, or is that just a bridge too far based on this quarterback class, Hutch?
For me, given how generational of a talent that Ashton Jeanty is, that would be a tad of a stretch. But when you consider 102 to 104, like I have Cam Ward ranked 104. I have Henderson ranked 3, which is why I took Henderson over Ward there at 4. But looking at that tier of like 2 to 5, if you're a QB, because the thing is, like, when you're looking at a rookie draft, I look at my team and I say, okay, I don't care about my team needs right now. I want to go for talent first in the rookie draft. I want to get the most valuable, the most talented players. Because at the end of the day, rookie drafts are a crapshoot. You're going to get some good ones at the end of the day. You're going to get some bad ones. You have to find the good ones. And I want to find those players because the thing is, if I draft a great player at a different position, I can trade it for a need. I can figure that out. That's something I figure out. If I reach for a bad player because of a positional need, Like, that's not going to get me anywhere. That's going to leave me with the hole that I still needed before. And I'm not saying Cam Ward's a bad player. I'm just saying taking him at the 101 or 102, I think is a bit of reach because there's such talented players at the top at other positions. So looking at 101, no, I would not consider Cam Ward at 101, and most likely not 102 either. Omarion Hampton's pretty solid there for me.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask. Is Hampton your 2 as well? So it sounds like Hampton and Jeanty have to go ahead of Ward in your opinion, and it's 3 where maybe a QB needy team could consider reaching on Ward for you.
Yeah, I would think so. That tier is where it's like, okay, you can use your QB neediness as a tiebreaker to argue Cam Ward over Travis Hunter or Trayvon Henderson.
Josh, I feel like you're probably in the same boat. I know Jay just wrote an article for us about drafting value over need, and it feels like taking Ward at the 1-1 would be a mistake. I also feel like if you just took Jeanty in 2 weeks, you could probably flip Jeanty for 2 quarterbacks if you're that quarterback needy, Josh.
I mean, sure, but are those 2 quarterbacks going to be top 12 quarterbacks? They're not. That's the point. So at that you would be trading Jeanty for 2 basically replaceable quarterbacks, and that's not good value for Jeanty. So I personally have Cam Ward as my 102 in rookie drafts, and here's why. Quarterback insulated values far exceed any other position, plain and simple. Like you can make the case for Jeanty. I get it. I mean, even the year that Bijan Robinson was going 101 and he finished his RB 12, we were still drafting him as a top 3 RB.
Yep.
So like, even if Jeanty has a bottom top 12 season, we're still going to be considering a top 3, 4, 5 running back in this class. With Cam Ward, let's say Cam Ward goes out and has, a CJ Stroud-esque rookie season. CJ Stroud vaulted all the way up to QB3 in startups the following year. Okay. I don't see a world where people are going to make that same mistake twice with Cam Ward. But if Cam Ward comes out and has a good rookie season, you can conceivably make the case that he becomes a top 7, top 8, top 9 quarterback in Superflex leagues.
Yeah. Where everybody needs a quarterback.
And that's kind of the point. So therein becomes, he is now a first round, top of the second round startup pick in dynasty drafts. Yeah. Omarion Hampton, if he comes out and has a top 5 rookie season, maybe he shoots up the way that like Jahmyr Gibbs did, but is he going to be going above Jamar Chase? Is he going to be going above Justin Jefferson? Is he going to be going above Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr., CeeDee Lamb? No. He's not going to have the same kind of insulated value that a quarterback like Cam Ward is going to have.
Go ahead. Yeah, I like how you mentioned insulated value. A good friend at Football Guys, Dave Kluge, has been really adamant about putting Cam Ward up there for fantasy. And it's because looking at first overall picks, they just have such a long leash. When you look back to 1993, by the way, Dave Kluge, jealous research, since 1993, 85% of quarterbacks drafted first overall start at least 80 games. Like these guys have such insulated value. Like they're given such a long leash in terms of NFL teams, even if they're not that great of a player. You have some quarterbacks on this list that are pretty mediocre quarterbacks that didn't have great careers, but then you have some of the greats, you could put Joe Burrow up there. He's going to be up in 80 games soon. You have some massive names at quarterback in the first overall list. But the point I'm making is that Cam Ward is going to start a few seasons of football, and it's going to keep his value really high for dynasty purposes. So I totally get the argument that you're making, Josh, to have Cam Ward up there. And like you said, if he has a good rookie season, he's going to be up there really fast. I mean, look how fast Bryce Young has gone up, man. I mean, I liked Bryce Young coming out. He had a terrible rookie season, historically bad rookie season. And he didn't really move ton from his original value. He moved down about 5-6 quarterback spots, which isn't insane considering the rookie season he had. And all of a sudden he had a great season last year, and I'm in on it, but he's now borderline a top 12 dynasty quarterback. I
just got him in the 6th round of a startup.
So that's such a steal.
I am so glad you guys brought up the names you brought up, because I do a keep trade cut on this show every single week. And I wanted to go with Cam Ward. And Hutch, I love that you brought up Bryce Young, because I wanted to use Bryce Young and I could not figure out who my third quarterback was going to be. Okay. Then I went and looked at ADP, at least on Sleeper's current ADP. Young is 30 picks below Ward and the people I'm about to mention here. So Hutch, me and you are in lockstep when it comes to Bryce Young, and I wanted to use him for this question. And now I kind of wish I mean, obviously I could pivot right now, but I'm not going to, because I'm actually going to give you the guys that are going around Cam Ward's current ADP, because I am so interested to hear how you guys are going to break these down. Hutch, I always let the guest go second. So Josh is going to be up first here. Keep trade cut, Josh. Cam Ward, Jordan Love, and CJ Stroud are the quarterbacks going next to Cam Ward in dynasty drafts, according to Sleeper right now. Josh, keep trade cut those guys for me.
So mentioning that I just took Bryce Young in the 6th round, I actually took CJ Stroud over both Love and Cam Ward.
So Josh made his decision.
So I will, in this case, I will keep CJ Stroud.
Okay.
Jordan Love went immediately after that. If people are valuing Jordan Love still in the 3rd round, I will trade that all day, every day.
Have to.
And then unfortunately I would cut Ward from that instance. But I just think that when you look at what's currently around CJ Stroud, I like the weapons. I like the situation a lot better for him over Cam Ward, as much as I'm a big Cam Ward guy. I'm a University of Miami fan. I'm going to believe in Stroud. Like, he can sling it. We know he can run if he needs to. It's not part of his game. It's kind of the same thing with Cam Ward. We know that he can run if he's forced to, but that's not what he wants to do. He wants to sit back. He wants to throw and make plays. Problem is, Tennessee right now just doesn't have the playmakers. With Jordan Love, I mean, the touchdowns are there. Like, he's performing. It's not anything bad. I just don't think he has anything close to the rushing upside that the other guys do, and they can't figure out who his true wide receiver 1 is, in my opinion.
I think that's fair. It's such a weird situation to even have Stroud in this discussion because of what you brought up earlier about how he was elite after that rookie year. Hutch,
QB1 overall in a lot of dynasty rankings.
Yeah, absolutely. Hutch, same question. Keep trade cut. Cam Ward, Jordan Love, CJ Stroud.
I'm in lockstep with Joshua here.
I thought you might be.
Stroud. I mean, the last season concerned me. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I genuinely moved him down for me. Like, it was concerning, but given what we saw as a rookie, given the talent around him at receiver, you have to put him first here. And then Jordan Love, I'm really scared of what we saw in the second half of the season. Like, you look at the second half of the season for fantasy, it was disastrous. But the problem was the Packers were so much better in the second half of the season, because in the first half, Jordan Love, they were letting him throw it like crazy, and they were losing a bunch of their games. Jordan Love was throwing an insane amount of interceptions. The efficiency wasn't there, but the fantasy points were there because passing touchdowns were there, and because Jordan Love was racking up some yards because he was able to throw it downfield. But then you look at that second half of the season, they started to run the ball a lot more. Josh Jacobs, they started to really slow the game down, a lot more shorter passes, and Jordan Love's yards went down, his touchdowns went down. But he threw 1 interception in week 11, and that was it for the regular season. That was it. He did not throw another interception in the entire season that he played. He was so efficient with the football. His yards per attempt went up. He was much, much more better of a passer. And the problem was he just wasn't good for fantasy. And I think the Packers are going to take that success in the second half, even though it costed Jordan Love in fantasy, and continue with that mindset of keeping Jordan Love comfortable. And that's a situation you do not want to be a part of for fantasy. I'm in complete agreement with Josh. If you're seeing Jordan Love in the 3rd round of a startup draft in a Superflex league, because he's like, I feel like he's constantly put in that tier of that low end QB1 range.
Yeah.
And he's not. He's outside that tier for me. He is back end of that tier. He feels like it's like the RB
Jordan Goff or Jared Goff. That's what he is.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. He's in that. He's kind of like
just a younger version. That's all.
Yes, he's in like that quarterback dead zone where it's like, oh no, I don't have a quarterback. I don't have a quarterback. I gotta get somebody. I get Jordan Love. Like, that's kind of how it feels with those quarterbacks, with that Jared Goff, Jordan Love range. That's kind of how it feels. And it's just not a place you want to be. So I'm absolutely trading Jordan Love, sell that value. Especially with the contract he has, the name he has, the season he had a couple of years ago with 30+ touchdowns. You can sell him for a lot right now. And then, unfortunately, I'm cutting Cam Ward. I think he's a talented player. I think he could be fun in the NFL. The Titans are looking for that franchise player. Cam Ward could be it. But he has not taken a single snap on the NFL field. I cannot value him over these other veterans.
There you go. If you guys disagree with my people, drop it in the chat. Let us know all about it. I do want to throw one last thing. I plan on moving on here, but I find this so interesting. Josh, in the draft you're talking about, were rookies available, or are they going to be drafted later?
Yeah, rookies are available.
Do you remember off the top of your head where Ward went?
He went at 4.9.
Okay.
So he went. So Love went 3.12.
Wow.
Love went 3.12. Baker went 4.2. Jared Goff 4.8. Ward 4.9. Trevor Lawrence 4.11, and Brock Purdy 5.1.
Okay.
Okay.
So here's what I want to throw out. This was on Sleeper, Josh.
Mhm.
According to Sleeper's current ADP in a Superflex, Cam Ward is the 31st pick by ADP off the board. And that makes him the QB 12 in a Superflex.
Oh, man.
Hutch, our guy, is the 61st pick.
That's
30
stupid.
full picks after Cam Ward. And Josh said he saw him go in the 6th, which technically in a 10-team league, this would be the 6-1, but no. 550. No, this would be the 7-1 in a 10-team. So never mind. That's about right. But regardless, Hutch, what I wanted to ask you is, and we'll wrap this up here, is Cam Ward vastly overvalued? Bryce Young vastly undervalued? Is it both? Do we need to adjust this a little bit? What is happening right now?
Yeah, I'd have Bryce Young over Cam Ward. I'm not trying to hate on Cam Ward. I'm not trying to hate on Cam Ward. I think he's a talented player. And honestly, I think that range of quarterbacks he's going in, the Brock Purdy, Trevor Lawrence, Jared Goff range, I think that's fair. Like, I don't think that's terribly unfair, given that he's the number 1 overall pick, given the leash he's going to get. I think that's fair. I just think the undervalue of Bryce Young is incredible to me. In the second half of the season, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this, he looked like one of the best quarterbacks in football. Yeah. The yardage wasn't necessarily there. The touchdowns, the fantasy points were crazy there.
I talked about this on our show. He scored a touchdown or at least a touchdown in his last 11 consecutive games. Only at the time, him, Joe Burrow, and Lamar Jackson were the only ones in the league who had done it at the time. So
yeah, he was phenomenal in that second half. And he was competing with some tough teams. I mean, he almost beat Kansas City. He should have beat Philly. I mean, he threw the game-winning touchdown, and he threw multiple elite passes on that final drive, and they were just dropped. I mean, they were straight up just dropped. And you had that problem throughout the rest of the season as well. And now you have a weapon like Tevin Millen, and I think this is just going to change this offense. I cannot wait to see Bryce Young next year with Dave Canales, second year as the head coach. I think this is going to be so fun. Bryce Young, for me, would be a top 12 dynasty quarterback. I think it's insane that he's going that low. You got to buy.
Me and Hutch, lockstep. Go get Bryce Young. Josh, let's talk about
the rest. I got him in the 6th round, and I've got Gator in this league too. And he's texting me. He's like, "Damn you, that's what I wanted."
Dude, 6th round is just that's
Gator. You should have took him in the 5th, you asshole. What are you doing?
Right.
He was the first overall pick 2 years ago.
Yeah, Josh,
he was the first overall pick.
Looking at this draft class, Josh, what about the rest of these quarterbacks in Superflex? You were the next person to take a quarterback at the 110. Then we don't see another quarterback go until the 3rd round. Josh, talk to us a little bit about Jackson Dart, but I also find the 3rd round super interesting. You have Milroe, who for the foreseeable future should be trapped. Not a lot of people think that's going to happen. You have Tyler Shuck, who could be a starting quarterback next year. And then Shadur Sanders.
This year. Tyler Shuck might be the starter week 1.
I meant to say this year. My apologies. Yeah. I didn't mean to say that. Thank you.
Okay, you're good.
And then you have Shadur Sanders, who there is a non-zero chance doesn't make the team going at the 3-9. And I paid a lot of attention. I don't think any of this was really auto draft. There might have been one in the 1st round. I think everybody made these picks. So no offense there, Evan. Mm-hmm. That's a strange pick at the 3-9 there, Josh. Or am I wrong? The world seems to be undervaluing the rest of these quarterbacks, Josh.
I mean, really, at the end of the day, this was never looked at as a high-end quarterback class, right? So you're taking the guys first that landed in the best spots, that were, had the highest draft capital, because they're going to get the longest leashes, right?
Yeah.
Cam Ward being the number 1 overall pick. Hutch, you already talked about it. He's basically going to have at minimum 3 years to figure it out. At minimum.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Jackson Dart, honest to God, I will say he scares me only because it was top 25, but there's also a non-zero chance that Brian Dable and Joe Shane get fired this year. And then if the new regime comes in, Jackson Dart is not going to have any value to who ultimately gets brought in. So again, kind of scary, but you take the risk with someone like Jackson Dart because he has the kind of rushing upside that proves to be a difference maker when it comes to the quarterback position in fantasy football. That's why for me, the 110, I think, is a perfect spot. If you're sitting at the back end of drafts, that's a smash pick for me.
Well, Josh, you know that's
Absolute
me.
smash.
I've been taking Dart and Shuck there in
Mhm.
every draft because I'm like, it's a starting quarterback. So for Shuck to fall where he fell, Josh, I think I was taking him at the 2-2, 2-3 in most of my drafts.
See, that doesn't shock me though, because to me, Shuck doesn't have the rushing upside that some of these other
That's a
quarterbacks
great
have.
point. He may
And
not have
also,
the
too-
walking upside with his injury.
Well, and let's not sugarcoat the fact that the Saints are a terrible team and could very well have a top 5 pick, and Shuck doesn't have a job in 2026.
There's very much true.
He's a second round
Right?
pick.
So
There's not much commitment there.
Yeah.
That
Great
exactly my point. Like, he's Will Levis. Like,
And
that's
Tyler Shuck could
essentially
age out
the-
next year, guys.
Yeah, that's true.
Also true.
He's eligible. He's eligible for Medicaid next year.
Also true. So, like, to me, the only outside of Ward and Dart, the only other quarterback that legitimately deserves the type of rookie draft investment at the quarterback position is Jalen Milroe, because of the elite rushing upside, the situation that he landed in. Sam Darnold, yes, signed a 3-year, $100+ million contract. That is a 1-year, $37.5 million deal. That's exactly what that contract is. If Seattle comes out and flat out sucks this year, Jalen Milroe is going to be starting by week 12.
Yep.
And we won't see much of Sam Darnold at all the rest of the season, or quite frankly, the rest of his career, because he's going to be a backup at that point. I understand with Shedeur, people are holding on to their priors. They felt that he was a top 2-3 quarterback in this class. The NFL told you that he's not. It's okay to believe them. Yes, he has an opportunity to start, but he's in a very similar situation that Tyler Shuck is in. He might get a chance to start this year.
Yeah.
And if he does, he better be really fucking good. Otherwise, the team is going to invest in a quarterback the next year, and now you have wasted a pick.
But the problem is you also have Dylan Gabriel in this roster that was drafted earlier than him.
Yeah.
Like Ryan mentioned it, Shedeur Sanders might not be on the team, period. He might not be on the team at all because you have Joe Flacco, you have Kenny Pickett, and you have Dylan Gabriel, and now you have Shedeur Sanders. Like, Joe Flacco's likely your starter. Kenny Pickett, they traded for him this offseason. I don't mean to joke when I say this, but he's a Super Bowl winner quarterback.
No, absolutely.
He played in the Super Bowl, and he's a
That's what
veteran.
Myles Garrett wanted, so the Cleveland got one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. They wanted a Super Bowl winning
But they
quarterback.
gave up
Kenny
like
Pickett, you know?
a 5th round pick or something in that trade as well.
No,
So,
like it was a trade. It was a legit trade for Kenny Pickett. So you're very likely not cutting him. And you're really going to cut a day 2 quarterback before the season starts? No. So Shedeur Sanders better play his butt off, or else he's not making the top 3 quarterbacks on the roster, which means he's not going to be on that roster.
These 3 kids
he's in
need
trouble.
to make Joe Flacco look like he belongs on a couch, or one of them is in trouble, likely Shedeur Sanders. So it's
Shedeur Sanders, because you're not cutting Kenny Pickett, you're not cutting Dylan Gabriel day 2 pick. Like,
Hutch,
Shedeur Sanders is the one that's in trouble here.
Hutch, I want to move on from this, but I made a connection, and our good friend Rachel over at Football Guys is doing roundtables. And she asked the question, who's the most underrated quarterback? And I went with Jalen Milroe. I made a connection, Hutch, and you and Josh are both Eagles fans, but I'm going to let you get us out of here on this one. I said, does this not reek of Jalen Hurts and Carson Wentz all over again? I understand that Milroe isn't quite Jalen Hurts, but guess what? Sam Darnold ain't Carson Wentz either. So you could easily see Seattle move on pretty damn quickly if Jalen Milroe goes in there and does what we expect him to do.
To be honest, I think Milroe's going to be a project. You know, you look at where he's at as a passer. I think you got to consider the fact that Seattle is taking him in, saying, let's put you on the bench for a bit and try to develop you, because as a passer, he is so raw. I mean, with Jalen Hurts, I know we see his struggles as a passer in the NFL. I will admit it, even as an Eagles fan, that dude was good in college. That dude could legit throw the ball. Like, that dude had some serious passing ability. Jalen Milroe is so raw. Like, I saw some flashes of some NFL capability, but overall, very raw, very inconsistent as a passer. I think you're going to want to sit him behind Sam Darnold for at least 1 year. He could be a threat to Sam Darnold this year if he plays truly that bad or if he gets hurt. But otherwise, I think Jalen Milroe is not going to happen 2025, 2026. If Sam Darnold plays bad enough is where we'll be looking at Jalen Milroe. I agree with you. I have him ranked in the 2nd round of Superflex startup drafts. I think he's rookie drafts.
Yeah.
I think he's absolutely worth a selection, because that rushing upside is like, it's Lamar Jackson level upside. Like, it's truly there. Like he could be an elite quarterback in fantasy football.
I'm going to throw JMO up on the screen here. Says, no way Shedeur is cut over Kenny Pickett.
Yes way.
Easy to say that, but Shedeur almost didn't.
See, here's the thing. I don't think that Sanders would actually get cut. This is what I ultimately think will happen. Like, they're going to have a legit quarterback competition.
Yes.
They're going to keep somebody with experience, whether that's Pickett or Flacco. It's going to be one of those two guys, right?
So do you think they're the two who are competing?
I would say that, well, I don't think that they're going to keep 4 quarterbacks for starters.
Correct.
No.
So one of them is, I think that there's a legitimate case that the team could look to trade Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders, given how they perform in camp, and actually ride the season with one of them being the developmental 3, and then Pickett and Flacco being those guys. But I don't think any of those rookies are going to start over Pickett because, again, Pickett and Flacco actually have starting experience. That's why they went out and got those guys. They need an actual veteran in this locker room because we know what Deshaun Watson is right now. Nobody cares about him.
Yeah, that's the other
even
part.
said it.
I figured they're going to IR him. That's kind of why he's never come up in any of these conversations.
Yeah,
We've spent far too much time on the Cleveland Browns and Shedeur Sanders. I'm going to let you guys know what my plan was here. I was going to go to the wide receivers next because I didn't think that many would go in round 1. I was wrong. So 3 go in round 1, 8 go in the first 10 picks. And I also noticed, guys, before we just move on from wide receiver, to let you guys know, I went back to this draft a month ago that we did with Kevin Coleman. The wide receivers are almost the exact same guys in the exact same order. The only real grow was Jack Besh, who moved from the 4th round up to the 2nd round. So he's the only real grow from ADP wise. Otherwise, I mean, Hunter went over McMillan in that draft. They went in almost the exact same order. Burden fell a little bit. So we're not going to spend a ton of time on these wide receivers. Before the draft, it was asked in our group chat if this would be a tight end premium draft. And I always kind of scoff at this question, and it's no offense to the person who asked it. It's just that Sleeper doesn't give us the ability to call things a tight end premium draft. There's no tight end premium ADP. IMJ, I see that you have a trade question. Drop it in there. We'll get to you as soon as we can here. It will get answered on the show. But I told him, yes, let's go ahead and make it a tight end premium draft. I didn't say this, Josh, but I'm like, it's not going to change anything. And guess what? It didn't change anything. So the 10 drafters who drafted with us knew this was the tight end premium, even though I forgot to mention it on the stream at all. But nothing really changed. But Josh, what I did want to bring up is, of all of the positions, I feel like tight end, everybody kind of landed in the most ideal landing spot. I know there's going to be some argument about Tyler Warren, and I'll let you bring that up if that's what you're going to bring up. But I feel like the 6 guys who were drafted here, you can't really bitch about their landing spot at all. It was a pretty nice landing spot for tight ends in general. Josh, is this a tight end class that could surprise us a little bit, especially some of these mid and late round guys?
I think it definitely could. I mean, there's talent here. I mean, we've talked to some people that think that Elijah Arroyo is the best tight end in this class.
Yeah.
And, he didn't go until I believe it was the 3rd round. Fannin goes in the 3rd round. I think of all of these, 6 tight ends that were drafted, Fannin probably has the worst landing spot because David Njoku's there in front of him. Yeah. But this is a team that's going to run a lot of 12 personnel. Like,
it also immediately brought up,
he likes to do.
It also immediately created David Njoku trade rumors. So that could be
also the contract too, so, contract in 2026 is showing that he could probably be gone after this year.
Yeah. So, but I mean, to get rid of Njoku, Fannin's going to have to learn how to block very quickly because that is a skill that David Njoku brings to the table that Fannin does not. I've already been on record saying this. I think that there's a clear path where Mason Taylor could have 80 targets this year because they don't have a clear number 2 in that Jets offense. A lot of people are really high on Terrence Ferguson landing with the Rams. They think he could be the next Tyler Higbee. All right, that's cool. I'm all about it. Sean McVay will use the tight end, but it's always been ancillary to the top 2 wide receivers. If one of those guys gets hurt, that's what elevates the tight end. If the 2 wide receivers are healthy, the tight end has no bearing in this offense. So, to me, it's very like George Kittle light in the sense that, we've seen George Kittle do absolutely fantastic things, but it typically comes when the preferred top options in that offense get hurt or are ineffective or have a bad matchup in a given week, right? Like, It's very rare that when, the top running back or the top 2 wide receivers in that offense, when they're healthy, George Kittle comes out with 2 catches for 18 yards. We see it all the time. So, it's just when you're looking at these types of players, like Loveland, to me, probably the better landing spot. Obviously got the best draft capital of all of these guys, but he's coming into this season hurt. And right now there's potentially 3 wide receivers and a running back ahead of him. So he probably doesn't pop off until maybe 2026 or down the stretch this year. Tyler Warren is stuck in the mud until they get a quarterback upgrade, in my opinion. I don't care. Like, I want really nothing to do with Tyler Warren. You know, and like I said, I do like Arroyo. I think he could be a lot of fun in that offense. They're going to run a lot of 12 personnel there too. So, you know, there's a chance that maybe they use Fant as more the inline blocker. Arroyo becomes the passing option guy. But they already have so many targets in the middle of the field in that offense with JSN and Cooper Kupp that I don't really know how much of a factor this year that Arroyo is going to be. But again, like I like these landing spots long term. I just don't love them for 2025.
Hutch, the club fantasy team, I think, to the person, hates Anthony Richardson. And I don't remember your take on Anthony Richardson. Are we overreacting to Tyler Warren? Are you as pessimistic as we are? What are your thoughts on Tyler Warren in Indianapolis?
I was never a fan of Anthony Richardson. I was one of the people that were lower on him last year.
That's why we like you and invite you to the show so often.
I wasn't like he's an absolute bust, but I was definitely, low end QB1 rather than top 5 like most people were putting him.
Yeah.
So I didn't get much of Anthony Richardson last year. And looking at his play this year, oh man, it was one of the hardest watches for me this year in the NFL. Anthony Richardson, it was truly, I suffered to watch him play football. It was terrible. But looking at what Tyler Warren can do, though, I still see some fantasy potential here with Anthony Richardson, because Anthony Richardson, while he's not great, the completion percentage is not great, the accuracy is not great, even in shorter ranges of the field, Tyler Warren is great at catching screens and great at making yards after the catch. That's really what he's about. He takes those short passes, he takes those intermediate passes in space and just dominates people. He's able to throw some nasty stiff arm, drop some shoulders, just barrel through people, and he's plenty good at screens. He can take handoffs. Like, I think Shane Steichen's going to get really creative with him, try to get him the football in his hands, keep Anthony Richardson comfortable, and make sure Anthony Richardson isn't throwing some crazy passes downfield, instead just dumping off Tyler Warren and letting Warren do his thing. So I still think there's plenty of fantasy upside here, especially when you consider the depth chart. Among all these tight ends that are drafted here, you could, Madison Taylor's there too, but you could argue that Tyler Warren has the easiest depth chart to climb on in terms of the tight end room.
Hutch, quarterbacks that run don't throw short passes.
I know, yes.
This is why running backs with running quarterbacks don't catch a ton of passes. If all you're doing is throwing short passes to a tight end, it's basically a running back screen at that point. It's not going to work.
It's
because
a volume
Anthony Richardson's going to say, I can run it myself and get however many yards.
Well, you do manufacture touches as well. I'm saying more.
He also needs to be 7 feet tall to hit, because Anthony Richardson
has no accuracy at all.
There's none.
All right, guys, I'm gonna have you guys break down your drafts here in just a second. But before we do so, we do have one more listener question. He said this trade has been eating him up all day. It is
This
am
is
the
easiest
J.
smash I've ever seen in my life.
This I am the J from over on Twitch. He is being offered Jaden Daniels, the 210 and the 310 for his CJ Stroud, 2.4, 2.8, 3.4, plus a 1 and a 3 next year. So I think this year's picks are right offable. So what we are really talking here, Hutch, is Jaden Daniels for Stroud and a 26, 1 and 3.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Jaden Daniels there all day. Yeah, you're gonna take,
and it is super flex, by the way, which adds to the importance of quarterbacks, but also makes that first a little bit more valuable.
Yeah, Jaden Daniels is just in a completely separate tier than Stroud. First off, he's a little younger. You got that. Actually, no, I think they're actually around the same age, because Stroud came in a little younger. But even so, you have Jaden Daniels at elite rushing upsides, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts level, and he's a rookie, came in and had an absolutely dominant season, and got his team to the NFC Championship game to get blown out by the Eagles. The point is, still a fantastic rookie
Eagles
season.
fans.
I know. He showed a lot of poise, a lot of great pocket presence his rookie season. He looked like a 5-year veteran. Absolutely incredible rookie season. Scared for what the Commanders are going to do to my Eagles in future seasons. But CJ Stroud, he's just not in the same tier. He really isn't in the same tier at all. I'd be happy to add a first and a third onto CJ Stroud to get a Jaden Daniels.
Josh, you said this was a smash?
Yeah, if I have an opportunity to get Jaden Daniels,
Yeah.
and I only have to give up one first, I cannot hit accept fast enough. There, you can make the argument that Jaden Daniels is the 101 in Superflex startups.
Yeah.
I'm in a startup currently right now. He went 101. That is the most valuable piece in Dynasty, plain and simple.
Yeah.
And if you're getting him for a fringe top 12 quarterback and one first round pick, when the going price would be a top 12 quarterback and potentially 2, maybe even 3 first round picks.
A guy Josh just told you went in the 3rd round. So you have the 101 versus a 3rd round pick. So
yeah, like this is a absolute smash for me.
I'll be honest. Yeah. I was a little nervous as someone who sees the 2026 first round pick as very valuable in Superflex, but the way you two have described it, it was enough to win me over. So hopefully it was enough to win our buddy Jay over. Go get Jaden Daniels. Thank us later. Guys.
Well, I'll even throw another example out because, we're talking about high value Dynasty players, correct?
Yeah.
I swung a deal for Jamar Chase in a league and I gave up 2 2026 firsts, a 2027 first, and Marvin Harrison Jr.
Oh my God.
Okay. Like that is the price for elite player because Jamar Chase is the most valuable non-quarterback in Superflex leagues. You can make that argument. It is a high price to get somebody to move off of that kind of player. Jaden Daniels is the 101 in Dynasty startups right now. If all you're giving up is swapping 2nd and 3rd round picks in a draft, 2026 first plus a fringe top 12 quarterback, you smash accept and run to a championship.
There you go. All right, guys.
Gosh,
I'll tell you,
insane deal.
That's a great Josh tears the roof off this place. That's a mic drop moment right there.
That's a deal.
We're gonna have to have a whole
I'll
show.
show you the team after the stream, and you'll be like, all right, that's why you made.
We're gonna have to have a whole show about. We're gonna have to have a whole show about that trade. I feel like I need counseling right now. Hutch, I like to have you guys just break down your players. Obviously, there's no roster to say if you needed this guy or not. You took the 5 guys that made the most sense to you at the time. We've talked about a few of your guys or one of your guys really. So talk about these guys as much or as little as you want to. Why'd you take the 5 guys you took?
So I really want to go big on TROPHYSMACK Henderson here. I think New England's a much better fit than people think, honestly. The Patriots have made it very clear before the draft process and after the draft process since drafting him, they view him as an absolute superstar that can work in all different ranges of the field. They have complimented his ability to run in between the tackles and be an aggressive runner, and you see it on film. The dude is not afraid to drop a shoulder. The dude is not afraid to go in between the tackles. He's not DeAndre Swift bouncing every single run to the outside and losing 3 yards. He is more than willing to ground and pound. He's happy to take the outside, get some explosive plays. He's an elite pass blocker. Arguably, I think the best pass blocker in this entire class at the running back position. He is going to be Drake May's best friend behind that offensive line, not getting any blitzes to Drake May, not allowing any of that BS to happen. He's perfect when it comes to just quick jab at somebody, coming off the edge, get open for a screen, dump off, and just go. He's absolutely fantastic in the screen game, the receiving game. He can go slot. He can go out wide. He can go wherever you want him to be in the receiving game. I think this kid is just going to be an absolute weapon for the New England Patriots. I think he's going to be used in all ranges of the field. I'm so excited. I'm thinking like Devon H. and Jahmyr Gibbs light here, where it's just he gets a lot of carries, gets a lot of receptions, and it's just going to be a monster.
I was going to say, I think we all agree he's going to be a better player, but this is the offense that gave us James White, who was just a fantasy asset for 3 years.
So. Yeah, absolutely. And then
now add on rushing volume.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, now add on some rushing volume. Exactly. And people might want to argue about Ramondre Stevenson. The relationship there has clearly soured. I mean, he's had back-to-back terrible
The first
seasons.
fumble, that man's going to be riding the bench.
Dude, that first fumble, he's done. He got benched for Antonio Gibson after a fumble, guys.
Exactly.
Like, he's not a threat to.
Let's not forget, he got benched for Antonio Gibson twice last year.
Yes,
there was
twice.
the rumor time, and then it actually happened.
Yeah, it's like he's not a threat, guys. This is TROPHYSMACK Henderson's backfield right away, especially this considering the fact that he can pass block.
That's such a good point.
It's got to get him on the field so fast. Like Mike Vrabel was so emphatic that he is such a good pass blocker. We're going to get him in there right away. He's going to be on the field for third downs at least from the very beginning. So I absolutely love TROPHYSMACK Henderson. I think he's incredibly undervalued. He usually goes to the 1.6, 1.7 even at times in rookie drafts. I think that's such a smash pick. I think you're getting the next Jahmyr Gibbs, Devon H. with that pick. Happy to take him at 1.3. And now Trey Harris. I just think this is a big physical, fun, fast wide receiver pairing with one of the best deep arms in all of football in Justin Herbert. I think that's going to be so fun. And Trey Harris, I think you could argue that he's a bit limited in his route tree. However, I wanted to specifically, when I was watching his film, because I saw all the limited route tree takes and all that, I try to watch where he's not running a go, where he's not running a hitch route. He looks good. The dude has solid footwork. He's got the ability. He can create separation. He can get open. It's not always consistent, but I think there's more there than people really like to think. It's just that he never really got the opportunity because Jack Stark just wanted to throw deep every play to him, and they wanted him running downfield. But I think he can absolutely be a really, really great wide receiver on the outside for Justin Herbert and be a great pairing to Ladd McConkey, who's going to work in those short intermediate ranges out of the slot most of the time.
Absolutely.
And then Elijah Arroyo, I honestly I like Elijah Arroyo. I really want a Harold Fannin. I was so when all Joe took Harold Fannin, I was actually genuinely pissed off. I was really mad. I don't know if all Joe, because I've never seen Harold Fannin go that high. Like, he usually is in the fourth round.
He usually goes after them. Yeah.
He usually goes in the fourth
tight end
round.
premium, baby.
yeah, tight end premium. Joe made me really mad with that one. I really wanted Harold Fannin, but I do like Elijah Arroyo as well. We were talking about him. Something that wasn't mentioned is that Noah Fant is a 2026 free agent. That makes his case a lot better. And obviously you have JSN and Jack Smith-the-Jig. Oh, sorry, JSN and Cooper Kupp. Not JSN and Jack Smith-the-Jig, but JSN and Cooper Kupp both working in the slot, both primary slot receivers, and making it hard for Elijah Arroyo to get in the slot. But I still think they're going to find ways to get him involved. He was a higher pick in the draft. And then Jordan James will be the last one I mentioned that I really, really want to talk about.
Okay.
Christian McCaffrey, huge injury concern. He's also got the age concern as well. Isaac Guerrero has been incredibly inconsistent with his health and his play on the football field. Jordan James could be a fantasy goldmine right away. Like, this guy could be like a waiver wire winner, where all of a sudden the depth chart in San Francisco thins out and you've got Jordan James just sitting there, and he could be a fantasy goldmine right now. So I like the production we saw at Oregon. I thought he was really, really good. I like the all-around greatness in terms of a running back. He can catch the ball. He can run physical. He can make some explosive things happen, both in the receiving and the running game. I think he's overall just a great Jordan Mason replacement. I see some shades in each other's games. I think Jordan James could be a really, really solid asset if the depth chart goes crazy in San Fran.
Our guest last week said Jordan James is this year's Bucky Irving. So they agree with you that there's a path there. I want to throw something out to people. Before I bring Josh's team up here, let me unselect Hutch's team. I always make these drafts go 50 picks because a lot of drafts will only go 40. So Hutch didn't even bother mentioning Quinn Ewers, which is absolutely fine. But what I like to point out is pay attention to this round. If you don't have a lot of draft picks and you're wondering who your priority free agents are, these are probably the guys you're looking for at the end of the draft, because these
100%.
are the guys that you should be looking for because everybody else drafted them. Josh, you spent a little bit of time on Jackson Dart, but I want to throw a couple of comments up here real quick, Josh, because you got called out for hoarding running backs. They were loving your pick of Jarquez Hunter, and they said you got him before. They expected you to go with another position. They didn't think that you would just be taking running back after running back. And then I do want to throw X-Marine up here one more time. You didn't draft this guy, but he brought up Kyle Monangai, who was also brought up on our show last week as someone who could do something in Chicago if he's able to beat out Roschon Johnson. But Josh, you were the running back whisperer in this draft with 3 of them off the board. You and the second pick, I think, are the only ones who took 3 running. Oh, no, actually quite a few people did. You just did it earlier, so never mind.
Yeah, I mean, really what it boils down to is there's a very clear tier break with the wide receivers for me. And you have the top, 4 guys, you've got Hunter, you've got Tet, Igbuka, you can mix and match with Burden, Higgins, Harris, etc. But once you get to, Jalen Noel, Kyle Williams, there is an absolute fall.
You just don't want them.
Yeah, you just really don't want them. So
I like Williams and Noel.
I kind of looked at
I love them both.
And that's fine. And I do like Kyle Williams. I actually thought about Kyle Williams there at the 3-1. I think he's somebody that has been absolutely buried by sleeper ADP and is really starting to fall through the cracks. But we're slowly starting to see that ADP build up. And he's not really becoming the secret that he was anymore. He's consistently being a 3rd round pick. But to me, after Noel, after Williams, it just falls off a cliff because I don't really care for Pat Bryant. I don't really care for Isaac Tesla. I don't really care for Alec Amanor, who I ended up taking in the 5th round. But to me, that's kind of where he should be going.
Yeah.
Like it's not, I'm not going to reach for him in that third, fourth round, etc. So I'm just going to take the value when it falls in my lap. Like it's a tight end premium, sure. A lot of those guys, like I was eyeing Mason Taylor at the 3-1. He ended up going at the 210. So I said, all right, I'll just pivot. I'll take the next best running back. I like Bashal Tutin. I think he's going to get plenty of opportunity because we really don't know how this new staff feels about Tank Bigsby and how they feel about Travis Etienne Jr. But what we do know is that they drafted Tutin. So let's see what they can do. And that to me is a pretty easy smash in the third round. Jarquez Hunter, I was kind of waffling between him and Woody Marks. I've been leaving damn near every single draft with Jarquez Hunter. Like they end up spending a pick on Hunter the year after they spent a third round pick on Blake Corum, who only saw like a small handful of touches behind Kieran Williams, who really wasn't that efficient last year. And basically they stopped throwing the football to. There is every opportunity for Jarquez Hunter to come in and earn snaps as early as this year, but could very well be the starting running back in 2026 if the team doesn't re-sign Kieran Williams after this year. So I'm more than willing to spend a fourth round pick. Woody Marks kind of along those same lines, being in Houston. Yeah. We saw Joe Mixon get hurt last year, miss a couple games. They didn't really have a solid backup plan. Dameon Pierce is really used just as a kick returner at this point. So there's plenty of opportunity for the backup role there in Houston. Why not Woody Marks, right? So like I think there's just more value later in drafts at the running back position because this was such a deep running back class versus the wide receiver position.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Late in drafts in those late third, fourth, fifth rounds, I'm usually getting the running backs. Like all the guys you mentioned are great names. I'd throw out Taj Brooks as well. Someone that's interesting. Trevor Etienne as well, from Carolina. I think that's a fun one. Like there's so many interesting.
Especially with the announcement that they're basically shelving Jonathan Brooks this year.
Yeah. You got the.
Well, no, I think it's official now. There. I think with him going to the pup this early,
they put him on the pup.
Yeah, he's out. Yeah. So. And then you have Dylan Sampson, Devin Neal. If Quinton Judkins were to not work out, Dylan Sampson's right there. I think Sampson's a very talented player.
I was gonna say it seems like Sampson could also easily replace Jerome Ford next year. So.
Oh yeah,
I was gonna say they had Ford take a pay cut this year. What does that tell you?
Yeah. And then Devin Neal, I liked Kendra Miller coming out. I thought he was very talented. It's probably time to give it up. I probably won't. But if he were to overtake Kendra Miller to be the backup in New Orleans, was laughing at me. Like there could be some very good fantasy value there, especially considering the age and the situation for Alvin Kamara right now.
Me and Josh do a rookie draft with someone who is not as in tune to rookies as we are, and Devin Neal was the second pick of the draft. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he owned it, and he's like, well, now I'm just going to draft all Kansas players, but you're obviously not able to do that. I want to give my guys some credit here before I kick this draft off the board and get us out of here. They mentioned the wide receiver cutoff is these two. And then if you look, not another wide receiver went till the end of the fourth round, but I love that the running backs you guys like are the guys who are going in this round. Obviously, we like the early guys, but like, with the exception of Jaden Blue, who I guess might be being overdrafted, because these are the guys that he's kind of being.
So. I said very much so. People are just buying into the fact that Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders are just kind of retreads. But you stop and think. What does Javonte Williams do really, really well? He's a pass blocker.
Yep.
No, he's a pass blocker.
Blocker as well.
So he's going to be used in that offense and catching passes too. I mean, he had 70 targets last year. So. They will use him. And I mean, you don't make the trade for George Pickens if you're not going to throw more with that offense.
Javonte Williams had 70 targets last year.
I believe so. Yeah.
No,
his skill set is such that he stays on the field during passing downs because they know he can block, and then he's the outlet pass. For fantasy, Javonte Williams is interesting. For real football, he's boring as all.
Yeah, he only had like 130 something carries, but yeah, he had 70 targets last year.
He sucks that bad for fantasy. And he has 70 targets.
Oh, Javonte Williams.
52 catches last year? Dude, that makes no sense.
He didn't score any touchdowns. That's why.
Yeah.
Dude.
It also needs to make you worry with no
think that number was that high.
Yeah. RJ Harvey better come in and be able to find a way to score some touchdowns that the Denver running backs could not do last year. So, Hutch, thank you so much. That's going to wrap up the Superflex mock draft. Once again, remind everybody where they can find you, what you're working on.
I'm still blown away. Javon Williams had 70.
I know. I was going to say.
I seriously had no, like, I was not even in that universe. If you asked me.
Oh, and Jaleel McLaughlin, who supposedly is the pass catcher there, had 27.
Nothing.
He can't pass block for shit. He cannot pass block. That's why they don't. He's like 5'7", 165 pounds. He is Clyde Edwards-Helaire. We just don't talk about him because he wasn't drafted in the first round.
Yeah. So. Yep. Oh my gosh. Wow. Yeah, y'all can follow me on Twitter at HutchinsonB_FF. Check me out on Blue Sky as well. Then check out my podcast, Hutch Coming in Clutch, wherever you get your podcasts. And always stay tuned on Football Guys. Check out the work over there. Football Guys does great work, and I'm going to be doing a lot over the summer and during the season as well.
Josh, what do we got coming up on No Punt Intended?
This coming week is our intro to IDP. And then I think we're going to do a sleeper series. So kind of looking at like breakouts at each position over the following 4 weeks, quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends. And then we're slowly going to be churning out our team preview series. It's our annual look inside. We'll have some written articles on the website as well as videos breaking down the teams and the fantasy relevant players.
Yeah, our flagship show, No Punt Intended, is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern. As Josh mentioned, it will be intro to IDP next week. I'm still working on securing a guest. I will have a great one, as I always do, and I will once again be hosting that show because Joe moves over to the expert seat and Josh takes the week off. So you guys are just going to get tired of my voice and this beard at some point because that's all I've been doing is hosting lately. For Josh, I'm Ryan. For Hutch, you can follow all of us at the @ signs you see at the below our names on here. You can follow Club Fantasy on all the socials at Club Fantasy FFL. Always remember, defense wins championships, offense wins fantasy football, and practice makes perfect. I'll see you next week at the next mock draft.